is if everybody's doing the same thing, it becomes who does the same thing the best. And that to me is antithetical of this innovative, we got to get these innovative minds in here. One of my favorite movies, I tell you all the time, Jody, is is Moneyball. I love that movie because it tells you the ground floor of the shifting in baseball.
It's a Tuesday travel day here on Birds 365. You got the Mac and Mac guys, and you got us both for the next 2 hours, but we won't have McMullen after that. He's on a big old jet plane heading down to Miami, much like the Birds, where they're going to get some joint practices in with the Dolphins. John, we're getting actually close now. I'm starting to feel it that the regular season is just around the corner. 12 days until the first kickoff on the Sunday. Got to get through this week. Got to do 2 practices with the Dolphins and an exhibition game. But it's right around the corner. Football season's almost here, buddy.
Yeah, I can't wait because I'm preseasoned out. I said yesterday. So August 23rd today, you got to cut down from 85 to 80. And then August 30th, next Tuesday, you cut down to 53. That's when you really feel it. So we got to just get through one more week of preseason nonsense. And, then we'll be to the real deal. And we can start talking about that kind of stuff. Which, by the way, I woke up, I got a long day, so I woke up on the wrong side of the bed to begin with. But
really,
then
worse than yesterday?
Yeah, well, yesterday I was just nitpicking, but it's got to do with yesterday. It's like you've been doing this a long time, Jody, 35 years, right? That's the anniversary we're
Correct.
talking about.
July was.
Do people just not listen, or are they disingenuous? What is your thought process on
It
that?
depends on the individual. There's some of both. Yeah, some people just that's not what I said. What are you talking about? That's not what
Yeah.
I said. And some people just don't pick up on nuance and stuff like it. Changes with
Yeah.
varying individuals.
So, yeah, that's frustrating. But yesterday, when I was nitpicking about the Eagles' schemes, it wasn't about what they were doing in preseason games. It's what they're going to do. And yes, everybody's vanilla in preseason. That's why it doesn't matter, which is what I pointed out. And everybody isn't game planning, which is why it doesn't matter, which I constantly point out. It's about what they're going to do, which I'm 100% locked in on what they're going to do defensively. There's a little bit of room for wiggle on the offensive side, but I'm pretty locked in on what they're going to do on the offensive side. Um, that's what I was talking about, not preseason vanilla football. Yeah, it bothers me. Sorry. Go ahead.
So you don't think JG's going to change a thing?
I know what he's going to run. That's not like I think a lot of people out there don't understand what he's running. So I mean, I guess my question would be, what do you mean by change? I mean, it's going to look different because he has different players, but he's running the same thing. He's running the offshoot of the Vic Fangio defense. He's running, 5-2 overhang and then the 4-man pass rush on obvious pass downs. And that's what he did last year. But last year he didn't have Jordan Davis, so he couldn't do it as much. He couldn't play 5-2 as much.
Well, then
So
that's a change into itself.
yeah,
If he's going to, if you've got a 5-2 defense and you ran it X amount of the percentage of times last
yeah, they
year,
can run it
and
more
you're
this
going
year.
to run it X amount differently this year, well, then that's changing. It's not the same thing.
Well, it's the same scheme. It's different talent that allows you to play part of the scheme more than you did last year. Same thing with the Eagles on the offensive and AJ Brown. It's going to be the same stuff, but it's going to look different because AJ Brown, like I said, they're going to out talent people because they have significant talent. So, last year you had guys playing out of position. Javon Hargrave, think of playing nose tackle, and Jannard Avery playing Sam linebacker. So you're not going to play a lot of 5-2 overhang with those guys. Now you have Jordan Davis and Hassan Reddick. You're going to play more 5-2 overhang. But it's the same thing. It's the same thing they played last year when Jannard Avery was out there. That's what I'm saying. And that's what he brought in, but he couldn't implement it to the way he wanted to, or the success of the way he wanted to. And by the way, they were number 10 in the NFL, and they were top 5 in limiting explosive plays, which is the whole philosophy of the defense. So I would argue it was successful anyway. But
well, then why would you want him to change, John?
Because my issue and what I brought up is, if everybody's doing the same thing, it becomes who does the same thing the best. And that to me is antithetical of this innovative, we got to get these innovative minds in here. One of my favorite movies, I tell you all the time, Jody, is Moneyball. I love that movie because it tells you the ground floor of the shifting in baseball. And the A's were ahead of the game, never won, but they were ahead of the game of counting cards, as Brad Pitt said it in the movie, as Billy Bean. They were ahead of the game. Now everybody's doing it. So it becomes who does it best. You're no longer innovative. So that's my point. It becomes who does it best. NBA, same way. NBA shifted into a math problem, right? 3-point shot, 3-point shot. Somebody figured out along the way that if you shoot 60% from the floor, unless you're Wilt Chamberlain, 6 out of 10 is 12 points inside the 3-point line. Well, that means you only got to shoot 40. And if you shoot above 40, and if you got Steph Curry shooting threes and all these great shooters, well, the math problem is, hey, don't have Maurice Chicks driving down the lane and dishing it off to Bobby Jones or Julius Erving. Have him kick it out to the 3-point shooter, which didn't exist back in the day. That's how the NBA has changed. But now everybody does it, so it becomes who does it best.
Right.
And all these guys are in the camp thinking they're ahead of the game. No, you're not ahead. You might have been ahead of the game. Andy Reid's ahead of the game because he's constantly innovating. Bill Belichick is ahead of the game because he's constantly innovating. You're not ahead of the game if you're in line with everybody else. You're just in line and you're trying to be better. And guess what? The Eagles have more talent than most teams, so they're going to be fine. I'm not going to say they're a bad football team, but they're in the line with everybody else. That's all I'm trying to say. They're in the line with everybody else.
Well, I will see if Belichick's ability to be constantly changing actually works. I'm not sure it's going to this week without a play caller for his offense. He refuses.
But that's the thing, Jody. And I don't know if it's going to work, right? I have no idea. On paper, it looks absurd, right? Everybody goes, how could you have Matt Patricia? How could you have Joe Judge calling plays?
Well, been there, done that when they made Castillo a defensive coordinator here in Philadelphia. The innovative Andy Reid decided he's going to take his offensive line coach and make him the defensive.
I know people are going to bring
that was up. Very innovative. There was a problem. It didn't freaking work.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You're a football coach, right? So that's what I'm saying. The mindset is, and I have it myself. I'm not criticizing you because I say the same stuff. We don't even think that way. We're like, well, he's an offensive coach. Well, why is he an offensive coach? Now, you pointed out failures. Jeremiah Washburn used to be an offensive line coach. Nobody knows it anymore because he's a defensive line coach. I mean, Nick Sirianni is a wide receiver, started out as quality coach quarterbacks. Nobody talks about it. I mean, the flipping of especially early in careers, the flipping of positions and coaching isn't that big of a deal because you're supposed to be a football coach. And
right.
By the way, the more things you can learn, the more technique you can learn, the better coach you're going to be. That's guys like Belichick are and he has the cachet to do it. And Andy tried it and it didn't work. obviously with Juan Castillo, but I get the thought process. The same thing people say about Jeremiah Washburn right now. Everybody says Javon Hargrave said it, Fletcher Cox said it, a bunch of guys said it. His past as an offensive line coach helps us as pass rushers. In the case of Hassan Reddick, it helps us because he knows so much about what offensive lines are thinking. To me, that makes sense from a logic standpoint. But yeah, it's very difficult. It's very difficult because people are going to say, and here in Philadelphia, the first name I could have predicted 100%. Jody's going to bring up Juan Castillo because it didn't work.
No. John, hold on. I didn't bring it up because it didn't work. I brought it up because it was too big a leap. I get the point you're trying to make that conceptually can work. If you know how to beat up and you're going to become a defensive guy, well, you should understand because you used to work with the offensive guy. On a positional coach level, it works. If you're as cocky as Andy Reid and Bill Belichick are, and I understand they both have resumes, they can do it, but it doesn't guarantee that it's going to work. Andy Reid tried to do it on too big a level with a coordinator position, which is too much to ask to have a guy change from one side of the ball to the other. And we'll see if it works for Belichick. My prediction is it won't because I think it's too big a leap. I didn't bring it up because it didn't work. I brought it up because it was too big a jump for the coach to try and make.
And I bring it up because they're open-minded to things that other people don't think about. Now, in the case of Matt Patricia, I agree with you. If you're going to ask me,
the results come in, and we judge the results, right? We don't judge the nerviness of it. We judge the results. And the results were that it failed miserably.
And I say all the time with play calling, people don't judge play calling; they judge results. Of course. We judge results. We don't judge play calling, whether people know it or not. They're judging the results of the play call.
Sure.
And that's why talent means so much. All I know is Matt Patricia. If you ask me to make a prediction, I'm with you. I don't think it's going to work. But, the guy's been a head coach in this league, an unsuccessful one, but nonetheless, he should know how to call the game. I was with Mike Tyson, Minnesota, when Red McCombs owned the team and ran it like the Cleveland Indians in Major League. He was one of those guys that would buy sports teams and flip them to make the money. And he cut, and Scott Linehan was their offensive coordinator, who everybody knows or should know, former Dallas offensive coordinator, Rams offensive coordinator. He just wouldn't pay him. So, he left to go to Miami, and Mike Tice didn't have anything. And he was a tight ends coach and an offensive line coach. And he got elevated when they fired Dennis Green. Again, cheap guy, cheap coach, stripping down the budget. And he's calling plays. And guess what? He was fine. And he made the playoffs. And he overachieved because he'd been around football and he'd been a football coach for a long, long time. I do think there's something. And I go roundabout to my original point. Look, I like innovative people. I like it, and they could be in different packages because I always say that the most innovative offensive mind in football is Andy Reid. And how old is Andy? I don't know. Doesn't mean youth does not guarantee innovation. Just like innovation doesn't, youth because you're young doesn't mean it's innovative. And if you're in the same line as everybody else, Jody, you're in the same line as everybody else. Billy Beane was innovative. Okay. Billy Beane was innovative. Everybody who copied Billy Beane is not innovative. Chip Kelly was innovative. And by the way, I think a lot of people don't know. Bill Belichick loved Chip Kelly. Loved Chip Kelly. Would invite him to practices to pick his mind about the tempo stuff. But Bill was smart, and he knew he had that filter, and Chip didn't have that filter. And then you saw it with Brady, who was better running up-tempo stuff than Tom Brady. But he also could take his foot off the gas when he needed to take his foot off the gas and manage the game and do everything and say, oh, we got a 2-touchdown lead. Let's not keep going and going and going and going. Like you're the Energizer Bunny. He took the foot off the gas. He manipulated the clock. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
Right,
But Chip
but
was innovative, but he just didn't
he
adjust.
was, and he was a failure. So I think you're putting a little bit of too much emphasis on innovation. There aren't all that many innovators in the NFL. The Eagles are, you're right, like a lot of other teams. So if the Eagles aren't one of the two innovative teams in the NFL, I'm not going to make a big deal about it. All right, he's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald, the Mac and Mac guys. We got one of our buds coming up next. Does a good job contributing for Bleeding Green Nation. Does the Eye on the Enemy podcast for the Philadelphia Eagles. John Stolnis joins us next here on Birds 365.